Lost Universe, Chapter 1. The tall, slim but muscular, semi-naked man stretched out his arms and breathed in deeply, trying to restore some normality to a body that had been hibernating for most of the journey. His breath vaporized in the cold air, and his body was racked with pain as the oxygen started to restore life to his limbs. He was clearly disoriented and muttered to himself, "I just hope that was one hell of a bad dream." He looked around anxiously and called out, "Where are we?" "You've reached your destination, Captain," the pleasant modulated voice of Priscilla, the voice of the central computer, replied. Patrick, the spaceship's captain, stared at the view screen in the wall above the hibernation bunks. There was nothing visible at all other than the almost infinite desolation of outer space. Truth be told, he didn't really know what he was looking for. What did he expect the end of the universe to look like? "Have you woken the others?" Patrick sensed an almost imperceptible hesitation before Priscilla replied, "The other 3 are waking now." The captain's body went cold. Something was very wrong. 3? What about the others?" "The other 12 did not survive, Captain." These were his team, and in most cases, his friends. There was no time to grieve. The expedition would have to continue at all costs. Losing 3/4 of his crew was devastating, but somehow they would have to cope. He tried to force the possibility that Vanessa had not survived out of his mind. He painfully swung his legs over the edge of the bed. As his bare feet touched the floor, he yelped with pain. The metal was bitterly cold. He forced himself to stand up and then grabbed his gray thermal variable clothes from a hook above the bunk. He hopped from one foot to the other until he had pulled on his clothing. "Good morning, Captain Patrick. Nice to speak to you again." "Good morning to you, Priscilla. Floor heating. Now." "Coming up, Captain." Moments later, his toes tingled as the comforting warmth of the heating replaced the cold as ice melt beneath his feet. "Where are we and why have we stopped? How far have we traveled?" As he waited for Priscilla's reply, he stretched his arms above his head again and kicked each leg a couple of times to loosen the muscles. "The data is being rechecked, but according to the analysis, we have reached our destination." Patrick's eyes widened in amazement. "And according to Earth calculations, the year is now 2255. The captain did a swift mental calculation. "So we've traveled at hyperspace for 5 Earth years. That would mean, yeah, we should have arrived." Patrick looked around at the other bunks. There was no sign of life. "What's the status of the surviving crew?" "All 3 are waking up, but their bodies seem to be reacting slowly to the process." "As long as they're all right. I cannot detect any abnormalities." "Good." With a sudden rush of anxiety, he was desperate to know who had survived. Before he could ask, 3 of the lids of the bunks started moving. He had his answer. To his huge relief, one of the bunks contained the love of his life, Vanessa. Josh was one of the 2 remaining survivors, and Kathy the other. Josh was the first to speak. "Why have we been woken up? Where are we?" Josh looked at his captain anxiously. Patrick chose his words carefully. "I'm sorry to have to tell you that we 4 are the only survivors." A gasp came from Kathy, followed by some piteous sobbing. She had lost both her lover and her brother. Vanessa, after a wan smile at Patrick, put her head in hands. Josh exploded angrily. "So why didn't Priscilla stop the craft right away? We may have been able to save them." Josh did not have anyone especially close to him amongst the crew that had perished, but he immediately realized the enormity of the task ahead, with a team of only 4 survivors. Patrick knew the answer, but Priscilla's metallic and monotone voice anticipated him. "No override was available for these circumstances. We are programmed not to stop until reaching the final destination unless the survival of the ship is directly threatened." "Sudden deaths amongst the majority of the crew was no reason to stop?" Patrick called out angrily. "Without orders to the contrary and without human control, the computer, has to decide on necessary steps to fulfill our mission and keep the remaining living organisms alive." All very rational and a typical machine computation, Patrick thought bitterly. "Thanks, Priscilla. That's all for now." "Understood, Captain. Your showers already have hot water and food will be prepared when you are finished." Patrick resisted the temptation to hug his beloved Vanessa first and stepped over to put a comforting arm around Kathy, who was still sobbing. Vanessa gave him an approving nod. Kathy was a thin, short woman with cropped brown hair and attractive gamine features when not distorted by her paroxysm of grief. Josh was still angry as he struggled out of his bunk. Why in the hell did you try to do something, Priscilla? Those were our friends, and more importantly, 12 crew members were always considered to be the optimum number for this mission. Did they all die at once? 6 of them developed some form of flu nearly 3 years ago. I had their bodies incinerated and the bunks decontaminated. There are no remaining bacteria to infect the rest of you. What form did it take? Josh wanted to know. The disease rotted their bodies from the inside. Even their eyes were destroyed. Oh my God. And the other 2? Kathy asked with a tremor in her voice. Both died about a year ago, one from a heart attack and the other from stroke. Patrick held up his hand. Enough for now. Go and have showers, get some breakfast, and then we'll meet again to decide on the way forward. As they started to comply with their captain's orders, Patrick motioned for Josh to help Kathy, who seemed incapable of any real movement. Only then did he finally turn to Vanessa. They embraced passionately.